Door County is well known for many things, such as lighthouses, cherries, fish boils, and of course, that place with the goats on the roof, Al Johnson's.
Hi, good morning. Welcome to Al Johnson's.
Well, Lars, the question everybody always has, what's the story with the goats on the roof?
Goats have been a part of our restaurant since 1973. We've been here since 1949, but 1973, the goats came along with the grass roofs all the way from Scandinavia.
They're up here every day?
Every day, weather depending, from about 8:30 in the morning till about 7:30ish in the evening. And it's all weather depending. If it's too hot, they're not here. If it's raining, it's not here, but we haven't had many of those days.
And typically, so like May through October sometime?
Indeed, May through that first week in November.
The big question also, how do they get up here?
We have a great 40-acre farm 5 minutes from the restaurant, and daily they come on the back of a pickup truck. It's their limo to work every morning, and open-air limo. And once we get to the restaurant, we have a ramp that we are with a series of steps that they're able to run up those steps and onto the ramp and right up onto the roof for the day. And so they've got the best 9 to 5 working conditions in the country. We've got a goat cam on the roof of Al Johnson, so 365 days out of the year, you click on and look for the goat cam link on aljohnsons.com. Every year on my dad's birthday, one of his best friends, Wink Larson, would always give him an animal. And it always ranged from either a duck or a goose, or then it kind of graduated into a baby pig, and then all of a sudden the goat appeared.
When Al was redoing the roof, his friend kept saying, well, you ought to put a goat up there. You ought to put a goat up there. Every day he'd come and bother Al and tell him, well, you ought to put a goat up there. So one day, unbeknownst to Al, Winky went and found a goat, and it was a big billy goat. His name was Oscar.
He actually slung it under his arm and he carried it up the ladder, and this was no small goat. And when he got to the top, the goat leapt to the first sure footing he saw, and Winky went down backwards, and I think he busted several ribs, and the goat sat there down, looked at Wink Larson, and that's how the whole thing really started.
And he put that goat on the roof in 1973 and as a birthday present to my dad, and the rest is history. Thank you, Wink Larson.
Yeah. In terms of maintenance of the roof, I mean, do they get a little help, or do they pretty much take care of it themselves?
Yeah, you know, maintenance is always a tricky question. Our maintenance crew does a great job they come up with a lawnmower and give them some help too to give it that golf course manicured look as well.
Yeah, now a question I've always kind of wondered, I mean, you know, roof replacements always kind of have a pain if you're a homeowner, but how in the world do you go about replacing a grass roof?
It's a great question, and you know, in 1973 when we first put the grass on the roof, we had no idea how long it would last, and quite frankly, we just replaced it a couple years ago. So we got 40 years plus out of the first roof, and well, I certainly think it'll last my lifetime, and then it becomes someone else's problem.
Long before the log building was built here, it was the original restaurant, looked more like an A-frame or your typical city store, really, but in a small town. I remember the plaques being out front of the provinces in Sweden. I remember my grandfather being here, my grandmother being in the kitchen all the time, meatballs being rolled by hand before the machine came along.
The reason why we have the restaurant today the way it is because of Dean Madden. And Dean would walk by and he'd say, you ought to build a log restaurant with a sod roof.
They went to Norway and they were introduced to a fellow by the name of Knut Larsen. As my dad used to tell it, on a napkin they sketched out some drawings and a handshake, and away they went.
And they built the entire building in Norway first, and everything was delivered here on the date that they needed the logs, and everything was built completely around the old restaurant. We never closed. All ready to order?
Perfect timing, you bet. I'll do the Swedish pancake special, please, and Swedish meatballs with that. Looks delicious. All right, thank you very much.
Lingonberries are a cross between a cranberry and a currant. They go great with everything from meat to poultry, and most popular with Swedish pancakes and Swedish meatballs.
Well, that's the story of the goats in Al Johnson's Swedish restaurant here from Grass Roof Central. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I highly encourage you to include a stop here at Al's the next time you're in Door County. Well, I'm Jon Jarosh, and until next time, I hope you can get out here to explore the door.